I don't know about you, but I love board game conventions, especially the ones that are focused on open gaming, where I get to meet new people, hang with friends, and play board games all day long. That's why I always look forward to BGG Spring and BGG Con. This year's BGG Spring is coming up and runs from May 22nd to May 26th at the Hyatt Regency Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. So you can basically hop off the plane and jump into your first game in no time. It's well over 50% sold out, and hotel rooms are going fast. And then later this year, BGG Con is coming back to the Hyatt Regency in downtown Dallas from November 19th to the 23rd. Badges are on sale now. I hope you can join us for one or both of these awesome play cons and have a blast binging board games in our growing library, which has over 9,000 games. Hope to see you there. This episode is sponsored by Catan Studio. And welcome to episode 68 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I am super duper stoked to be here today with my good friend Edward Euler from Heavy Cardboard, a YouTube channel and podcast that I've been listening to since I got into games. How's it going, Edward?
It's going great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, Candice.
Absolutely. You know, I had Jess on like what feels like forever ago, and we've been talking about doing this, I don't know, for forever it seems. So I'm glad we're finally connecting and recording together.
Agreed. We actually kind of reconnected a little bit when we were both at Circle DC. Fort Circle Games is basically their war game historical simulation GMT East equivalent convention. We talked some Molly House and everything while we were there, and we were like, hey, will you be on my show? And I was like, hey, will you be on my show?
Yes.
So finally, here we are.
And I'm glad that Ben was able to kind of sneak into the con, and he was randomly in DC the same weekend that we were for that, so that he could meet you. And then when he was on tour in your area, got to be on Heavy Cardboard and stream with you guys.
Yeah, that was a happy coincidence. That was pretty cool. And the funny, just super quick little anecdote, Ben flew in from LA for his Watch What Crappens, which is his real big podcast. And he was like, hey, I'm flying in from LA. And I was like, hey, do you want to be on the show, or do you just want to do a game night? And he's like, no, let's play a game. And I'm thinking, all right, dude's flying in from LA. He's got a massive live recording of his podcast in a huge auditorium the next day. Let's do something pretty, low overhead. Like I'm thinking like, maybe we play Raw or, something that is simple. And he's like, no, let's play Shackleton Base, Railways of the Lost Atlas. And I'm like, all right, come on, get me some. Let's do this.
That's my Ben.
Dude's a machine.
My Ben. Yeah, totally. I love Ben. He's like one of my favorite people to play with out here.
He's just a good human being and funny as all get out. And the funny thing, kind of like when you and I, when we get together, it's really hard to shut us up.
Yeah. It's a challenge.
The struggle is real. But hey, thanks to everybody out there who endures and continues to listen to all the various shows that are out there.
For sure. So what's new with you, Edward? I know you're a busy man.
Not anywhere compared to you. Sheesh. You and I both happened to be at the Gathering of Friends recently in Niagara Falls. So got back from that last week. That is the longest 11-day week that I have of the year. it an 11-day convention, which is just crazy in all the right ways. So got back from that, got a chance to reconnect with a bunch of folks, saw you obviously there, and a bunch of other industry people, as well as just honestly, it really is kind of like my game group just goes west 8 hours to play games with one another, as well as other folks, because the Boston, New England area is such a big board gaming area. So we did that. I have my own convention, HeavyCon. That's kicking off in 2.5 weeks.
Awesome.
Everyone says, "Hey, are you excited about it?" And I'm like, I'm excited for it to be over. And I mean, you can appreciate this. Like anytime these big conventions, especially when it's on your shoulders.
Oh yeah, you're planning it. That's another world, another level.
Yeah, the stress is pretty incredible. Plus, I have other personal stuff going on.
Sure.
Like we might be moving the studio soon, and it's huge chaos and everything else. So there's that. But also, you mentioned, podcasting YouTube channel that is Heavy Cardboard. Well, Heavy Cardboard started as a podcast. It happened to win the BGG award in 2019 as best podcast.
Golden
so
Geek.
I'm very proud of that. But it went away for a number of years and just focused on the YouTube channel. And honestly, a few weeks back, we brought it back with a vengeance, and we've been digging that. So I'm enjoying doing the podcast again.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm subscribed, and I know I've listened to like a chunk of them, but I guess I'm not getting the notifications because I didn't know you popped a new
it's a brand new feed.
Oh,
because
snap.
I wanted to completely redo it and kind of rebrand it, because it used to be all about these really deep dives into like one game.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I enjoyed it for when I did it, but I burned out on it. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to change it up and do it a different way. And in fact, if you've ever, I'm sure you have, Efka and Elaine over at No Pun Included,
yes,
they recently kind of rebranded their podcast in a similar fashion.
Talk Cardboard, right?
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, that's basically what we're doing now. We've changed it up. So it's a different feed, and it's more of a, I don't know, informal, kind of like this, honestly, to where it's more conversational and less rigid and structured. And it's something that I think I can do long term. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
The only other real thing that's been going on with me other than that is I don't know if you know this about me, but I play poker pretty seriously. I used to play professionally, and when the government took that away back in 2011, 2012 or 2011, whatever it was, that's actually some of the impetus for why Heavy Cardboard exists is because, well, I'll talk more about that later. But but I still like to play poker. It's kind of a hobby that pays for itself and pays for other hobbies. So that's so I grind poker when I'm not doing the show and spending time with the family. Honestly, you're probably going to find me at one of the 6 or 7 card rooms around the Boston area.
Wow, cool.
That's what I do. Yeah, I don't play slots. I don't play in the pit. I just play poker. But I absolutely adore the game.
Awesome.
Absolutely love it. So that's me.
I think I knew you played poker maybe, but I don't think I knew you were like kind of playing professionally and all that.
You know the joke. You know what it takes to be a professional poker player?
No, what?
Quit your job. That's it. To be a successful poker player is a different animal.
Awesome, Edward. Awesome. I was talking to you beforehand, but I've been just getting deeper and deeper with painting minis. I realized that I have so many games that are my favorite games lately that have minis. And I'm sick of looking at gray minis. And so at first, I was thinking about trying to like hire someone to paint them. But I discovered speed paints. I think the company's Army Painter has these like speed paint 2.0, where basically it's like a one coat and done formula. And there's something in the formula that like it kind of drizzles down so that it does all the contrasting and highlighting.
And I'm like doing some dry brushing and touch-ups afterwards. But if you watch people on YouTube use this paint who are like pro painters, they can like tackle a whole miniature in like 10 minutes where it would usually take 2 or 3 hours to do everything.
So it's lowering the, I mean, yeah, it's lowering the bar to be able to get into it for those that are into doing such things.
Yeah. And I'm going for like quantity over quality. I mean, I'm getting better and better gradually, but I have so many minis and I'm like, I want them painted and I want them painted now. So
I can appreciate that. For me, I'm sure you've played Tzolk'in, right? The Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
I just want to paint my gears because I refuse to stream that game again until I have painted gears because it's embarrassing. And so that might be the impetus I need right there. So
get some
Army
speed
Painter
paints.
Speed paints. Okay. I'll check into it.
Yeah,
Very cool.
It is pretty fun. So that's just been a nice, like, really relaxing thing, and it's also just like satisfying when you get to actually play the game with the minis. It's like, oh, my babies, you know. So, anyways, that's new with me, and also this year at the gathering, I did not go the full time, and this is the first time I've not gone the full like 11 days. But I think I need to go back to going the full 11 days because I feel like I got there Tuesday night and next thing I know, it's Saturday. And it's like, oh, I got to leave.
It is the longest convention, I think, in the industry. But at the same time, it goes by. It's both too long and too short all at the same time, which makes no logical sense until you experience it. Then you're like, no, actually, that fits.
Yeah, because like usually like when I get there, I'm like, oh, we have all the time in the world, you know, that first weekend. And then it's like, next thing you know, it's Thursday. Uh-oh, you know, you're trying to squeeze games in with different people. And I just love it too, because I don't know if this happens to you, but every time you try to like schedule a game, it just doesn't work. Somebody's either going to be running late from a game. So I'm always just like, let's just stay fluid. Like, we'll pencil it in. If it happens, it happens. If not, it doesn't.
See, for me, I used to be like that. But now if I schedule something, I show up and I make a point. And because otherwise I have what happened with Elizabeth Hargrave. She was there and I was like, hey, Elizabeth, can we sit down and have a chat for like 15 minutes? I mentioned this at the beginning of the weekend. She's like, yeah, sure. Just come grab me sometime this week. It was the following Saturday night. And she's like, never happened. I was like, I have failed you, Elizabeth. I am so sorry.
It can be a struggle.
I'm so bad. If I don't lock down an actual schedule, then it's time gets away from you so quickly. It's amazing how 11 days can evaporate like that.
Well, Edward, considering your channel is called Heavy Cardboard, and I know you love heavy games, and I love that you teach them on your channel with live streams and everything. I mean, it's been so helpful for people like me who are into heavy games, and also just for like, you know, discovering how games work and like hearing everybody's thoughts on them. I love it. I love what you do and I appreciate it. And as much as I'd love to just talk to you about what your favorite light games are, today we need to talk about heavy board games.
I do feel like I'm a bit typecast, but it's okay. Because I mean, like poor Taylor for Taylor's trick taking table. Yeah. Like everyone's like, oh, you only play. He's like, no, I play other games.
Play other games.
But it is what it is. No, in all seriousness, I mean, this is why I got into the hobby. It was for these heavier, meatier games that offer a competition of decision making. Because, like I alluded to earlier, I used to play poker professionally, and when that went away online, I was looking for something that scratched a similar itch. Now, obviously, we're not gambling. We're not playing for money. But there's a social agreement, a social contract when you're sitting around the table that, look, we're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy each other's company, because I allude that board games are a modern day knitting circle. It's the board games are the conduit in which we can break bread and get around and just socialize. But there's also that social contract of us trying to do the very best decision making that we can do in the game to try and win the game. The goal is winning, but it's not. It's the process of getting to the win that is the goal. But again, that social contract of we're trying our hardest, we're really trying to beat each other within the constraints of the game.
Yeah.
And it's that competition of decision making that really drew me into board games. So that's why I like heavier games. That's really the crux for me. That
makes total sense. I think for me, and I know we'll get into this more in a bit, but for me, I think it is, I've told this story a lot, but like Great Western Trail was like the first heavy game that I played. And I didn't even know what I was getting into because I was playing like King of Tokyo and like Splendor at the time. And I show up at a meetup and end up sitting down at a table to play Great Western Trail and just like went over my head, but it tingled my brain so much. And I was just like, I want to figure this out. I went home, ordered it. I was like so excited. I'm fascinated with game designs and like the process of making games. And when you talk about some of these heavy games, it's like, holy cow, how did somebody think to make this beast? And I want to explore that beast. And so, yeah, there are a whole bunch of things. But before we start, diving into heavy games and like what we love about them, what some of the challenges are with them, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Edward. So let's jump into fresh plays.
All right, so when we were doing our notes, we have an outline, just for those that don't know a little inside baseball. We have an outline that we share. And I saw what Candice had on hers, and so it put me in a particular direction here. So unfortunately for y'all, or fortunately for you, depending on your point of view, I'm going to talk about two games you guys can't play.
Oh, Edward. But hopefully we'll all be able to play them soon, though, right?
Yeah, see, I'm building the anticipation for these. So, all right. So one is one that I played literally last week. Last week.
Super fresh.
And that's Ayar, Children of the Sun. It's the upcoming third game in the Merv Sancore Ayar series from designers Fabio Lopiano and Mandela Fernandez Grandon. So obviously it's not out yet. It's coming out. I think it's Spiel. I think they said October. Coming out from Osprey Games. Plays 1 to 4 players. I've only played it 4 players. So one of the things that has become an annual thing for me is I spend either a day or at least half a day with Fabio hanging out. Usually we'll go have dinner and whatever. Ooh, name dropping. Yeah, I know. Sorry. But Fabio's first year at the Gathering was last year. And he basically was on my hip the entire time. It was great. So he and I got to know each other. And now I spend usually a full day playing Fabio's games. So I played what may or may not exist. Let's just call it maybe it's a Shackleton base expansion, but it may or may not exist. Whatever. We also played another one of his unreleased prototypes, but also we played Ayar, Children of the Sun. And like I said, so this is the third in that series. To be honest, I've never played Merv, so I can't compare it to that.
Neither.
But have you played Sancore?
I have only played a partial game of Sancore too. I'm not in the loop with this series. I think it looks beautiful and I liked what I saw when I did like a 2-hour demo of Sancore. But yeah, I've never played Merv, but I'm curious to hear more about this one.
So the artwork's by Ian O'Toole. I'm not going to call it garish, but it's very bright. It's very colorful. All the games in this series, and this follows in that line as far as from an aesthetic. But so Fabio taught four of us sitting down, and it's basically about your these Peruvian, I believe, mythology of how the Incans, I believe it's the Incans, not the Mayans, the Incans, how that civilization got started. And it's kind of a fable, folklore, whatever. But the main mechanisms in this game, it's a real novel action selection. I'm all about mechanisms much more than theme. And it has this clever little grid in which you have 16 effectively houses that you're going to be placing out on the board. And you activate it by taking one of your pseudo workers to a column or a row, and you're going to take one of those houses and put it out on the board into one of the available actions. There are 4 actions, which are effectively mini games. There is nothing new or fresh about the mini games themselves. The puzzle of how those grids intersect as you're taking these houses off, because it's a 4x4 grid. The first time you take a house off, it has a strength or a power, the action of 1. The second time you do it, it has an action, power or a strength of 2. So they get stronger and stronger as the game goes on. And that little puzzle of how to activate and what order in which to activate those things is super clever. It's a game that I've seen in other games, which I'm going to go somewhat obscure, but Dilluvia Project has that as well.
Edward, I was literally thinking about the Dilluvia Project grid when you were describing that. So that's funny.
That's exactly where I'm not saying that's the inspiration for
right,
it. Right.
But that's what I was thinking as you were talking about it. That's wild.
Yeah. So that is a really, really clever puzzle. And then the rest of some of the, like I said, the mini games are fine. But what really stands out in this game is how the scoring mechanism works. The scorings happen in 2 different phases. There's a day phase and a night phase. The day phase happens when you trigger a specific scoring event. So along these different tracks, they're going to be player controlled as far as the timing goes for when these trigger. But they're only going to be triggered a maximum of 4 times. There are 4 rounds in the game. And the earlier you score these day points, it's going to be multiplied over the course of however many rounds you get to do it. So if you score these points early, so let's say you score maybe 3 points in a first round, that's really going to end up being 12 by the end of the game because it's going to be in each round.
Gotcha.
So the earlier you're able to do that, the better. But then there's the night scoring. And the night scoring tends to be in huge, big chunks to where maybe you're going to score, I don't know, 20, 30 of these night points at the end of a round every round. And Candice-esque, you're going to, at the end of the game, whichever you have the less of is your final score.
Yeah.
And so it's not just a balance of the 2 scoring mechanisms, it's the timing of when you trigger them that is so agonizing in all the ways that we want it to be.
Awesome.
It makes that grid little mini puzzle, along with the maybe not terribly original but interesting mini games, and how that puzzle all works together is actually way more delicious than I thought it was going to be.
Cool.
When we sat down, Fabio's like, "Oh, this is a lighter game, da 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 da." But there's some real depth here, and there's some really real big struggles that you can have, which I want in a game like that. So yeah, weight wise, I would put it a little bit lighter than Sancore, but just super, super clever. And I'm looking forward to playing it more. So that's Ayar, Children of the Sun.
Awesome. And with Ayar, do you think and I know you've only played it twice.
Once with Fabio and then once here.
Okay.
I streamed it for the patrons. Yeah.
Oh, cool. If you had to choose one between Sancore and Ayar that you prefer.
Ooh, that's a tough call. So, I mean, there's that recency bias with Ayar, right?
Sure.
By default. But Sancore, it also has a really, really clever scoring mechanism
books,
that I want
right?
to.
Yeah.
The multiplier with the books. That's a tough choice. You put a gun to my head, I probably would say Sankore,
Okay.
but it's close. Let's put it this way. If you offered up both, I'd flip a coin. How's that?
Love it. And they are clearly different enough too.
Apples and giraffes, totally different games. Just because you have one, the mechanisms in it are completely different. Honestly, the only similarity is the color scheme and the Ian O'Toole graphic design, and the
mini games, maybe.
No, the mini games are totally different, but it's familiar. Like nothing is new in any of really the mini game stuff.
Gotcha.
But the way they're done and the games themselves and just the mechanisms as a whole are completely different. So I think that if you have Sankore, you definitely have room for Ayar because they scratch different edges.
Awesome.
All right. So what you got? What you got for your first game?
So I, Edward, have been on a Jenna Felly kick recently, and I think it started when I broke out. Have you ever heard of the game Door the Lesser Houses?
I think I've heard of this. I haven't played it, though.
Okay, it was a remake of a card game called Bemused. It's really cool. It's like a Game of Thrones kind of experience where you're putting conspiracies and scandals on different people's houses, but it's a filler game, and it's weird but fascinating. So anyway,
I'm in for it. I mean, sign me up.
But so now me and a couple of friends locally have been just wanting to further explore more of Jenna Felly's games. So I revisited Cosmic Frog, which came out in 2020 and is from Devious Weasel Games, plays with 2 to 6 players. And let me tell you, we played it with teams. Then I think this is only my second time playing Cosmic Frog. And this is one of those games, if anybody's ever played any games from Jenna Felly, Devious Weasel Games, when you play that first game, you're going to be fumbling through the rule book a little bit. And, it's just a little odd. And in Cosmic Frog, you are these 2 mile tall frogs that are going to be hopping around this area called the Shard, and you're going to be eating different types of terrain. And when you swallow the terrain, it goes into your gullet, and then you have to jump into the ether and disgorge it and spit it out into your vault, where you have this kind of a mini game puzzle of how the vault scores at the end of the game, which is that is your scoring mechanism. But meanwhile, there's chaos. You're going to be punching other frogs and trying to knock them to the outer dimension. And you can steal from their vault potentially when they're in the outer dimension. It is wild. It's fascinating. But again, I played it with teams for the first time, and it was so cool. I think I'm almost going to say I might play this game exclusively as a team game, because the element of working together, and when when bad stuff happens or you roll a bad die roll, you can strategize together. It was just super fun. And we played this with 5 players, but we did 3v3, because if you have 5 players, one team can control, they share a frog. So my friend,
because of course they can.
Yes. And the other cool thing is, at the beginning of the game, everybody's going to get a secret special ability card for for their frogs, any frogs they're controlling. And you choose when you want to flip it over and say haha, this is what I can do. There's just a lot of really cool stuff, but I really, really enjoyed this as a team game. And lately I've been loving really, really cool team experiences like Guards of Atlantis 2, which I played a bunch, at the gathering. And there's something about team games that I've just been really getting into. And this game has amazing psychedelic artwork.
I was going to point out, so I've never played Cosmic Frog, but I've been told I need to, and I'm familiar with it. And just from your description and enthusiasm of this, for any of y'all listening, you know exactly what the artwork looks like without even seeing it. You know?
Yeah.
Imagine taking mushrooms. I mean, it's the 60s called. And 100%. Like the artwork fits so perfectly with the theme on this game.
Yeah.
Just so much so.
Totally. And you know what, Edward? Guess what else? I need to paint those frogs. That's what I realized too. I was like, I can't play with these like just off-white frogs, but I need to like ramp up my skills because I want my frogs to be like super psychedelic, you know?
I mean, you got to, if you're going to do it, you got to do it proper, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then also I'll just mention while I was at the gathering, I got the opportunity to play Zimby Mojo, which is another Jenna Felly game. And I also love that Jenna, on all these games, she has like these crazy taglines. Like Zimby Mojo, on the box, it says, a co-opportunistic game of cannibalistic mayhem. And I'm like, okay, yeah. But it was super fun. Ended up playing it twice, once as a 7-player game. So that was my third time playing Zimby Mojo. And the more I play it, the more I'm like, okay, I think we have all the rules down. And it's just really fun. It's just, you have to work with other players to go like defeat the king, get the crown. But then you're trying to be the one that gets the crown back to your tribal board. And it is just like so unique and different and weird. And I love it all. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So earlier I mentioned, that competition to decision making. I also appreciate just weird stuff. Like, give me something offbeat.
Yes.
Like, look, I'm as big a fan as anybody for some trading in the Mediterranean. Love
right,
me.
Right.
Beige is wonderful. All right. So I get that. But at the same time, a little Zimby Mojo, I'm in. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That or Cosmic Frog. Absolutely. Give me some off the beaten path. And we're going to actually talk about some games later on and mention some that are just weird in all the ways that you want them to be in the board game world.
Totally. And I would say if you have Cosmic Frog and you have not tried playing as teams, try it. Like, it was so fun. Like, I want to get that game back to the table soon. So anyways, what else you been playing, Edward?
Well, here's a game that, all right. I have a guy in my group that hates when people do this long preface. Just tell me the damn name of the game. Okay. Sorry. This is for you, Shrey. Speakeasy from Vital Lacerda. Now, I've had this game for almost a year. All right. So, again, we work with Eagle Griffin. So, look, this is not a paid sponsorship. The whole 9 yards. Yes, we work with them, and we do all of Vital's games, and that's great. But I really wanted to highlight Speakeasy for a number of reasons. First off, it's got a theme that is going to hit for a lot of people. It's, 1920s, 1930s, gangsters in New York City. Ian O'Toole's artwork, I just realized I just covered 2 games that are Ian. But anyway, Ian's a friend. That's fine. Hey, Ian.
Ian's awesome.
But no, so Vital Lacerda's Speakeasy coming out later on this year from Eagle Griffin, plays 1 to 4. I've literally played it across all 4 player counts.
Awesome.
I played it, either have run games or have played probably about 10 to 12 games of this already. And here's the thing. If you like Vital Lacerda's games, you're going to absolutely love Speakeasy. If you don't like Vital's games, this might be the one. And I do think that this is going to be his highest rated on BGG. I think this is going to be his number 1 game. I'm not saying it's my favorite, but it's certainly in the conversation. It's a worker placement game that, like Vital likes to do, he's like, oh, you just put down a worker, you take an action, you draw a card. It's very simple. Sure, Vital, sure. Unlike some of his games, this shows, in my opinion, a maturation in his designs that it still has a number of processes. It still has a number of steps that you're going to take, but they're all intuitive and they all make sense. And so it's
Cool.
not 834 steps, take one action, and then as you go through all these
Gotcha.
things, and you're going to forget 12 of them along the way. And then you're like, oh
Right.
no, I need to go back and do that. It's one of the hallmarks that can either make you love or hate Vital Lacerda as a designer. Speakeasy, however, has maybe not as many of those steps, but they're all intuitive. They all make sense. And the graphic design makes it very, very simple to not miss stuff. And so what
Cool.
you're doing in this game is it's during Prohibition. So you represent gangster or a new gangster family or crime family that's coming in, and you're going to open up speakeasies. So ultimately, you're going to produce liquor, whatever you want it to be. You want it to be gin, you want it to be bourbon. Thematically, it's whatever you want it to be. It's prohibition
Cool.
liquor of some sort.
Gotcha.
So you're going to produce it or acquire it through rum runners interacting with the boats that are on the game. You can then, once you've produced it, you now need to transport it from your still, from your distillery to your various buildings around the board in Manhattan. It's either going to be speakeasies, casinos, or nightclubs, and then you need to sell this after you've transported it. So there is a logical progression that this game has. Like, okay, thematically, I understand what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
it's all about how best can I go about doing it.
Cool.
And it is such a smooth, well-oiled machine in the way all the actions work. The prototype that I have has one player aid for 4 players. By the end of the first round, nobody needs the player aid.
Wow.
And that's a credit, I would say, to both the design, the graphic design, the whole 9 yards, and how smooth it plays, that it just hums along. Now, that's not to say that you're not agonizing and have these, again, those quote unquote miserable decisions that put your head, in a blender, which is why we're playing these heavy games to begin with.
Absolutely.
But it's how best to do it. It's not oh no, I don't know what I can do and what I'm allowed to do. It's the how do I do it well, not the how can I do it type thing. And it's all the things that I want in a VTOL game, and it's just so smooth, and it looks
gorgeous,
so beautiful. It is such it's an absolute stunner on the table. I do hope that the insert that they come up with helps with setup, because oh my God, there are so many bits. So many. Now, you're talking to a guy that loves Antiquity, so I'm used to a ton of bits and fiddly. But yeah, setup can be intimidating in this, but we're going to talk about Juice Worth the Squeeze later on.
Yep.
And yeah, this is definitely a game that if you dig VTOL, this is one you're going to want to check out for sure. So Speakeasy from Vital Lacerda and Eagle Griffin.
Awesome. I have not played Speakeasy yet, but I have checked it out and it looks amazing. And honestly, like I've been really, really excited about it. Like I can't wait to play it. The past few Lacerda games like Inventions and Weather Machine, I never played and I'm okay with. I love Lisboa and Vinhos and Kanban and everything, but it's just, it can be hard to get to the table like Lacerda games, but like the Speakeasy, the theme of it, everything sounds so cool that I'm really, really excited. And like the fact that it's got this like gangster kind of old-timey theme, I'm just thinking about a game night pairing with like La Familia and The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, and Sons of Anarchy, and like I love having games that are like kind of thematically can be grouped together.
And it's funny you mentioned those two, because that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Weather Machine and Inventions, I've played all of his games. I like some more than others.
Sure.
And I like what he's trying to do in both Weather Machine and Inventions, but those are much more abstract concept games to where, again, logically I can get there. I can make sense of it. It's a little bit more of a reach, because one thing that Vital tends to do really well in his games, some better than others, is to where the theme informs the actions, which lowers that learning curve and lowers that barrier to entry. The problem with Inventions and Weather Machine, even though I think they're both excellent games, they're more abstract concepts, and so it's harder to make that connection between the theme and the actions, whereas in Speakeasy, it is so seamless and it makes so much sense, and it's something that's very familiar to people. I think it's just gonna be just a mammoth hit. I really do think that.
Awesome.
And it's really damn good. So it's a win all the way around.
Yeah, I am stoked for Speakeasy.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's. I think you're really gonna enjoy this.
Cool.
All right. So what you got for your second one? Hit me. I'm ready for it.
So Edward, this was not intentional at all, but the next game I'm going to talk about is also super duper psychedelic. If it was a mushroom trip for Cosmic Frog, this is probably acid or something like crazy. But
kids, don't do drugs.
Yeah,
drugs are bad.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Just play this game instead. It's called Dungeon Degenerates: Hand of Doom. And this is a game designed by Eric Ratty, and it has like incredibly psychedelic, awesome, unique art. Although some people are going to be like off-put by it, but I love it. By Sean Auberg. And this is a game that came out in 2017. I think it's typically available on their website and like Kickstarter, and they run Kickstarters. Publishing company is called Goblinco. And this is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game that's kind of like an RPG style game, but instead of like tough heroes, adventurers, we are literally escaped criminals, like ridiculous, like scum of the earth type characters. And we are like breaking out of prison, and you're playing through missions. And it's a game where I think from what I've heard, the campaign is the most exciting way to play it, but you can play the missions as standalone experiences. And it has, and this is somebody who, like, I don't have a lot of RPG experience, but now I'm getting more and more board game RPG hybrid kind of experience. But like, you'll have your character and you have like different stats, and like as you play, you're gonna have to do different skill checks. You have items and like tons. This game has tons of variety. You have 4 different regions on the map, and for each of them, you have different encounter decks. You have different monster decks. You have different ways you can level up your character by getting different skills. You can start the game with a weakness, which is kind of thematic. Like my partner Matt's character had like some kind of gambling problem, and I forget exactly what that impact on the game was, but some of the characters, there's like a carnival drifter, witch smeller, dishonored knight. Like everybody, these characters are wild, and it's very, very thematic. But this land it's kind of like a dark fantasy world. Basically, it's gradually turning to be more and more corrupt. And so, each mission in the mission booklet, you'll have some objective that you're trying to complete before you lose the game when this Doom track ramps up. And each of the areas, like different territories and locations on the board, have a danger level. And so, this is a game where like the flow of the game is very straightforward, but there is a lot in terms of different effects that monsters have. Your characters will have these different, or you may like have to have these different weaknesses. Like, for example, we ended up accidentally picking up some fungal parasite, and it hindered one of our characters, one of the stats, like perception or something like that.
Okay.
And it's just wild, like all of the different creativity when it comes to the different monsters and the items that you're using for all the characters, and you can kind of, level up your character however you want. Like it's very like open. It's not like, oh, I'm the fugitive fop, so I can only get these skills. It's like, no,
Sure.
I could I could lean into this or lean into that. Each round you're like moving around the map. There's a danger phase where you draw a danger card, and the danger level is going to like ramp up in some part of the board. And depending on the danger level of where you are and this card you get, you might have an encounter and you might have to fight some monsters. And another thing I really like, this is you're going to be rolling a lot of dice in this game. So if people aren't into that, like just look away.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the occasional dice chucker.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. But it is very intuitive, because like all of your skill tests, you roll 2d6 dice, and then you are trying to get a number equal to or less than your stat. And if you do, you pass. But combat is really neat. Like I've been really appreciating different styles of doing combat versus just like, oh, I roll and I hit on a 6 or whatever,
Sure.
This game has 6 dice. 2 are orange, 2 are purple, 2 are green. When you go to fight a monster, it's very, I'll say simple, but like we had to figure it out a little bit. But now that I get it, it's like, it feels simple. But you roll 2 green dice, 2 orange dice, and 1 purple. And that's a power die. And whenever you are fighting a monster, you have to choose a stance. Either you're on assault mode or guard mode. And basically,
which will either help with offense or defense, I assume, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And similarly, like when you move around the map, you typically move as an adventure party, and you could split up, but each party has to decide, are we moving bold or cautiously? And depending on that, you can do certain things, or certain things might happen to you, But with the combat, you roll all the dice. So you don't need to like do something for the monster turn or do something. It's like you take your turn and you roll all of the dice. You look at the green dice. If the total of the green dice is equal to or less than your agility stat, cool, you're able to defend. How much do you defend? You look at whichever die is higher and you take that, and that's how much you block.
Okay. All right.
And if you picked guard, the purple die, you may use that instead of one of the green dice because it might be better. It might like block more damage. And then you look at the orange dice. So you're making one roll with all of these dice. Then you look at the orange dice, and that's how much damage you're doing to them. And it works in a similar way. It just kind of depends, like if you're using a weapon or if you're just doing an unarmed kind of strike. There's lots of little detail to everything. It's very, very thematic. There are lots of, it almost reminds me of Too Many Bones, how all the like different baddies have like stats and traits, and you're like, okay, what does drain mean? Okay, what does, taunt, this. So but they have a nice player aid. Like they have 2 big, nice player aids that have just about like everything. And it's cool. I really want to like play the campaign. Like we played it as a standalone mission just to kind of get familiar with it. I had my friend like months ago when I first got this game. Oh, by the way, I was provided a copy of Dungeon Degenerates. I had reached out when I heard about it on the Dungeon Dive channel from Daniel. I was like, this sounds so cool. But like when I first got it, I set it up. I had my friend 3D print me card trays because you have a lot of decks of cards. If you have them nice and organized, you have tokens. I got my Plano box with all the like different tokens. And then we never got to like play the full game. So I had to pack it up. But I recently was like, I noticed that it was going to be, they're launching a Kickstarter for the 6th printing of this game, and with 2 new adventures, and that's drop May 13th, I think it is. If this sounds fun, check out the Kickstarter, see if it might be something you want. And I'll say too, like, thematically, it is dark, and like I think there's like a sex goblin or something like that is one of the monsters. Like, so you'll be in for a trip if you check this out.
Everything about this screams like 70s adventure game, from an artwork, aesthetic, as well as kind of the gallows humor it has.
Okay, yeah.
But this looks like a throwback adventure game, but with a modern twist to it. That's exactly how the vibe I'm getting from this as well.
And like, this was completely unintentional that I picked 2 psychedelic games to talk about today, because I had like debated for a while which other game, but I was like, Cosmic Frog was so cool with teams, I have to mention it. But yeah, anyways, that's Dungeon Degenerates, Hand of Doom. There's some videos out there, which I probably should have watched one, because again, some of the, like, the flow of the game is not that complex. You know, you have like 3 phases. Sometimes the encounter phase doesn't even happen, but it's just like, getting familiar with the map and everything, because the colors, it's a trip to look at this game board.
This is going to be one of those games that you kind of got to work to love.
Yeah,
it looks like, but if it hits for you, it's going to hit well, right?
Totally. And there was like this one guy, I don't know what his channel is, but like on YouTube, he reviews this game, and he just kind of like, the first like half of his review is just like, there are a lot of tokens, there's a lot of stuff, you're going to be like looking in the rule book for the first, game you play. But then he's like, but once you kind of get over that little like hurdle, it is like just so cool. And like the way people who've played the campaign describe the campaign, because even in the first mission, you have like a bunch of like branching narratives and like ways you can, decisions you can make. And yeah, anyway, I'm excited to play it more. Matt loves it too, because we've both been like really into these adventure games, and I love like just unique, weird games. And this Dungeon Degenerates speaks to me.
That's awesome. Hey, and ultimately, that's what this hobby is great about.
Yeah.
Play what you dig, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I feel strongly about like never disparaging. Oh, you like Splendor? Go play Splendor. Enjoy the heck out of it.
Yeah.
You enjoy, super hardcore, campaigns for North Africa. Awesome. Go play that. Have fun.
Yeah.
Again, play what you dig. That's what this is about. So have fun. And I'm excited that you're excited about it.
Thank you. No minis though, but they do have really cool standees.
They do have
the art.
The artwork is hysterical. Think Mad Max 70s psychedelic color. Yeah, it's awesome. It looks
really
pretty cool.
Yeah, you really like when you look at this game board for the first time. You are not going to get that like Ian O'Toole clean, like where everything's like, But one of the things I will mention to that point is that yesterday when we were on a space, like we're on a road, and we had to check the danger level, and a road itself doesn't have a danger level, but like you're supposed to use the territory's danger level. And we were just like, which one do we use? Because we're kind of like adjacent to here and here. Lo and behold, what we discovered halfway through the game is they put in parentheses which one to use right under the name. So it's like there are like they do a lot with the player aids, and like as crazy as it is, the graphic design, there are some hints once you pay attention to them.
Yeah, I mean, not to be mean, but like they can bring the horse to water. They can't make you drink it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, I'll be the first to admit, you go through some of the BGG forums like for a game, because I mean, I know you do it, I do it, everybody does
absolutely.
it. Like, because somebody had to have asked this question. And you go through, you find it, or you don't, whatever. But some of the questions, I'm like, it's right there. Like, it's right there. Like, come on, read the.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
We all need to like be more patient and read Read carefully. Reread.
You know what that's called? Job security.
Hey, yep.
And now a word from our sponsor. The game you know and love is better than ever. The new 6th edition of Catan retains the familiar Catan experience while simultaneously receiving its boldest visual update ever. Even in an overhaul this big, it's the little things. Tweaks like a more premium box design, shorter and more visual rulebooks, and, for the first time ever, custom card trays included. Whether you're a seasoned Catan veteran or thinking about trying it for the first time, Catan 6th edition is the most enjoyable and easiest to learn version of this best-selling board game.
So I've been thinking for a while that I wanted to kind of chat about a lot of different aspects of heavy games, like what is the appeal to some people?
Sure.
Because definitely is, heavy games are not for everyone. And I think you're a great person. I think you're a great person to talk to about this because I think we're very similar in that we love 18xx games. We love heavy Euros. We love war games. There's just something in all these different style games that really appeals to us. Yeah.
So why? Well, I mean, I alluded to this earlier, that competition of decision making. That's the big thing for me. That why I like these. I want something meaty. Now, that's not to say that I don't enjoy. I love trick taking games, right? I love deduction games like some of Ben Rossett's games. I enjoy a variety of different games. Heck, I enjoy a good party game. It all depends on time, group, setting, the whole 9 yards. But why these? Because they have the things that I'm looking for when I sit down to play a game. And again, to me, ultimately, it's all about gathering around a table, having a good time with either old friends or potential new friends, and just enjoying each other's company while beating each other's brains in, metaphorically. So yeah, that's for me. Now, do you want to go into what would we define as a heavy game?
Yeah. So I feel heaviness can stem from a lot of things. Sometimes a game can feel heavy because there are so many rules, or the rules are unclear, or the rules are just kind of complicated and complex, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we did old school back in the day, when we started the podcast, we kind of had this discussion amongst ourselves, how do we define a heavy game? And we came up with 5 factors that contribute to a game. Now, I am not the arbiter of these things. I'm just a dude behind a mic. But ultimately, we saw it as 5, and one of which is exactly what you brought up, and that's the rules complexity or mechanical complexity, right? There's a lot of either mechanisms or the rules, just how dense the rule set is. And there tends to be, the heavier the game, the more the rules. That's not a hard, fast rule of that, but take for instance war games, historical simulations, those tend to be chunkier rule sets than your typical Euro.
Yes, and that is when I think about how many war games I've learned in the past 2 or 3 years, or however long I've been exploring those kind of games, half the time I'm if I had someone who knew how to play it and just taught me, it would not be as challenging.
100%.
So it's true. When you the coin series, I don't think coin games, if you play heavy Euro games, are that crazy. But it's if you have never played it and you're reading the rules and thank goodness there are those learn to play booklets, the playbooks. That helps a lot.
I mean, I hear there are some decent videos out there of such things as well. But yes.
Exactly. But like there are a lot of games like that where it's like if you had somebody teach you who's like who knows it and can like answer those quick one-off questions, it probably won't feel as heavy as if you're learning it by yourself.
Totally. I mean, when you specifically to war games, they're written in such a way, it's a wall of text, and it's intimidating, and it really, that barrier to entry can be really difficult. So there's that rules complexity, right? So that would be factor number one, and we agree on that. I think the second one, and this is the one where I want the most of, if you will, in a game for a heavy game, and that's the planning or the strategic planning, that decision matrix, what all goes into the decision process. Like, okay, I know I want to, like, ultimately, let's say it's to score victory points. How do I do that? Well, I have to, do this recipe fulfillment. I need to gather these resources. What's the best way to go about doing that? And then kind of working through this mental process of, I need to do this before I do that. But then if somebody gets in my way, I can go around it and do this. And it's that those mental gymnastics. And that is, to me, where I want the weight to mostly come from. Is not so much the rules getting in the way, but once the rules get out of the way, then it's a matter of, okay, how do I best come up with a plan and then execute said plan around what the other players are doing.
Yes. And also, like, if you think of a game like chess, like, you could probably teach somebody the rules to chess in like 5 to 10 minutes, right?
100%. Yet you can spend a lifetime trying to figure out the depth, right? And exploring it. That's exactly a good example. Yep.
The other thing I think about too is there are a lot of games which we describe as opaque. Like, for example, at Circle DC, I played my first game of Pax Penning. And
we recently streamed that. Yes, I can speak to this. Okay.
So like Pax Penning is like this beautiful game, and it's like there's not that much like to what you're doing, but man, oh man, I was like, wait, we were all like, wait, what? Like, why do we want to do this? Or, like I found that game to be very opaque, but also intriguing. And I want to play it more to understand it better.
So it's one of those, okay, I understand the word you just told me for the rules. I understand that language. Yeah. However, now that just because I have the rules in my head, I still have no clue what the heck I'm actually doing.
Yeah.
Like, and why I'm doing it. And that opacity there absolutely can also be a factor in that. I totally agree with you. Another one that we have listed is the amount of luck or the lack of luck in a game. The higher the luck factor, the lower the weight, in my opinion. And look, that's not to say that there shouldn't be any luck. Again, to use your reference of a game like chess or Go or anything that's zero luck, zero randomness, and the whole 9 yards. It doesn't necessarily have to be die rolls. It could be card draws. It could be a tableau or like a market of cards because you don't know the order or what cards are going to be available. So we want some of that in a lot of the games that we play. Now, games like 18XX or the ilk that have zero hidden information and zero randomness, the randomness only comes from the players, but the less luck, probably the higher the weight of the game comes in, I would say.
Yes. And the more skill involved with like kind of doing well. And
absolutely. So that's the third factor. The fourth one is one that I don't think everybody thinks about. Not everyone's going to agree with me. Again, I'm not the arbiter of said things, but for us.
But you're heavy cardboard.
Oh, I know. But still, the fourth one is game length. Now, that's not to say that a short game can't be heavy, but while I won't call it a skill to be able to sit at a table for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and to be able to maintain that level of concentration, and like we're not all just automaton robots sitting there staying quiet. We're laughing, we're having a good time, we're doing all this, but we're still focused on the game, right? Ultimately.
Right.
And the longer the game tends to be, as long as the game doesn't intentionally overstay its welcome, which I would argue most don't intentionally try to do that.
Right.
But even a game like Furnace, which is a short game, you know, you're talking a maybe 45-minute game, can still be a pretty heavy, again, from that planning, from that decision
running your
matrix.
engine.
Exactly. So it's not the end all be all with game length, but I think the longer the game, that's going to contribute to a lesser degree to some of that weight, I would say.
Yes. And I did not really think about that, but yeah. And for me, like, I don't mind if a game takes a long time, as long as we're all in it and enjoying it.
As long as it should take that long, right?
Right.
I don't want to play a 5-hour game that should be 2 hours. That's a miserable experience.
Right.
That's not good. But a 5-hour game that should take 5 hours, I'm in. Let's do it. Like Macher. It's 5 hours, 5 players, 7 rounds for the for the elections. I know that's what that's going to be, and I'm in for that. So, but again, I think that plays a small part. And the last thing is something you already touched on, and that is that getting it factor. That's where that opacity and how hard it is to
make it click.
Exactly. Like we use the term grok. I know some people out there hate that, but yeah, how long does it take for the game to actually click in? Oh, now I see how.
I get it. Yeah.
Okay, now I get it. That feeling, how long it takes to get there, also to me contributes to the weight of the game. So those are the 5 factors: the complexity, the planning, the amount or lack of luck, the game length, and the getting it factor.
So when we talk about the getting it factor, and actually a couple of these things, I have a quick story about, like, the first time I met you was in 2020 at Gamma, right before everything locked down with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And like we were playing with Clay from Capstone. We were playing like Stick'em or something. And in that, like, that session of hanging, Clay told me about a game called Meltwater. And I picked it up immediately, and like I had it on my shelf, and I was intrigued by the theme and wanted to play it and everything. And one night I had like a game night, and everybody left except my friend Jason. And I'm like, hey, let's play this 2-player game. Like, the rule book is only like 4 pages. And I was like, we'll just learn it from, but this is the original edition is Hollandspiel. And so when we start reading this rule book, and we're like, oh, this one step doesn't happen in the first round, so let's just skip that. And then we started trying to like play through the rest, and we were like, maybe we should read that first section. And then even after reading that first section of this like 4 or 5 page rule book, it took us multiple rounds to like get the like, oh, I see.
Hell, it took me 2 games of it to get it. So well done, you.
And I love that fast forward. I think it might be this year that Capstone is putting out a new edition of Meltwater, because like Clay is the one who introduced that game to me back in 2020. So
that's awesome.
Super cool that exists. But back to like Heaviness, another thing I was thinking about was like the themes. Like, challenging themes can make games feel more heavy, because one thing I've noticed as people went gaga for Arc Nova over the past couple of years, there are people that are playing Arc Nova and loving it, just like as if it was the weight of Wingspan. But I think it's because it's, you're making a zoo. Like, the theme of it can ease people into the heaviness, and it kind of like hides the heaviness of the game. So it's like, I think that if a heavy game doesn't have like a theme, like even you were saying with Speakeasy, you were like, everything kind of makes thematic sense. So it's like easier to grok it. So I think the theming could be challenging too, or helpful.
I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. And it's funny because when I'm out and about, whether I'm at the poker table or not in a board game environment, and people ask what I do, and I tell them, and they're like, no, really, what do you do? And I was like, no, really. And they like, Monopoly Risk? I was like, so we start with Catan and Ticket to Ride, right? Trying to see if they're familiar with that. But honestly, the go-to game that I use to describe to people what it is that I do is I actually use PAX Premier 2nd Edition. And I do that because I'm trying to kind of open their eyes to, wait, this is a board game? And I use it as PAX Premier 2nd Edition is the political, economic, and socio just machinations between the British, the Russian, and the Afghans in the 18th and 19th century. And they look at me like, wait,
there's
really?
a board game about that?
Right. And so I do think that a theme that speaks to somebody or that appeals, scratches an itch, or piques their interest is going to lower that weight to them specifically.
Yes.
Because they're more motivated, more interested in it. And I think that's why, and I'm actually really glad you touched on this. This is why I hate the term like entry level game or like something like a starter game for
gateway game or
a gateway game. Here's the problem with that. I think that you can turn people off if you don't match the game to the player. And what I mean by that is just because they're new to the hobby doesn't mean they have to come in with super simple games. You can actually find out what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Right? And find a theme that works. Maybe they're really big into, they enjoy drinking wine. So you don't have to automatically start with a game like Viticulture. You could theoretically go with a game like Vinos because they're if they're
into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so match the person to the type of game that they would enjoy. Don't necessarily just do a game that you enjoy. So,
just because it's lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it's too light, you can turn people off the same way that if it's too heavy, you can turn. So again, it's matching the game to the person, right?
Totally.
And I think that's a really important thing that I think gets overlooked a little bit sometimes. But I mean, I've used Le Havre as gateway games for people. And I certainly would not consider that a gateway game by any stretch.
Right.
And so again, just match up the person to the game. And I feel strongly about it. I'll get off my soapbox about that. But you can absolutely go in
totally
either direction with people.
I have a friend back in Pennsylvania, one of my college friends, who is a magician. And he's played Tricarion.
Oh my God. I was just going to say.
He doesn't play board games much like.
Tricarion is such a good game too. Yeah. But certainly you wouldn't think of as a gateway game there. Right.
But I think Lacerda does it great. Mind Clash does it great with heavy but thematic games. And you're totally right. Getting someone into something they're excited about will
that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So along the heaviness conversation, I've a couple more things I wanted to mention. One is a couple years ago, I got The Great Zimbabwe. I got a copy from a virtual flea market. Love it. We played it, 5 of us, learned it from the rule book, played it, had a blast. Half that group played it a second time back to back. And then later that day or that weekend, I sat down to play Barrage. And I had kind of a bumpy, lukewarm experience with Barrage, which I know Ben and my friend Matt, a lot of people are like, we got to get you to revisit. And I do want to revisit Barrage. But at the time, I was like, The Great Zimbabwe, I was like, the actions are very straightforward, but like the strategy was just like so hard in that like spatial puzzle. But I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So when I played Barrage, and I'm like, there's all these million things you can do, and this, I'm like, like it's too much. It's not like quote unquote like elegant. And like so I had a whole moment with that. But yes, I will visit Barrage, and I will report back on that.
And here's the thing, like, just like, you don't want to lump everything all together. Oh, I don't like heavy games. No, maybe that's true. That's entirely possible, and that's okay. Or maybe you don't like kind of like what you know, I don't want to call it a kitchen sink game, but these games that have a copious amount of mechanisms within them. And I can think of certain designers that, like, I mean, you could, again, we're not harping on my buddy Vital, but Vital Lacerda is like that. There are designer of Nucleum, David Turtzi, kind of falls in that spectrum, but then there are it's a specific. Heavy games are not all one thing. There are different, again,
there's
talking
lots
about what
of different types and lots of different types of heaviness. Yeah.
There are gradients, right? Just like there are not just a handful of colors. There are a lot of different colors in the world. So similar in that regard. Right.
Totally. But yeah, I just love the mental workout of them. You know, it's very satisfying when you do rock them. I can't say that I've mastered any game,
same here. Oh,
heavy
God,
or
no,
light. I enjoy exploring the design space. And you know, it's kind of like music too. I always bring it back to music, that like a lot of music I gravitate towards is like progressive, can be like complex, and it like sometimes, like most of my favorite artists I listened to a lot before I was like, I love this, you know, like
maybe that's why I don't like bands like Tool and like, because maybe I just don't get it. Maybe that because I'm not exploring it. And so, but and this actually is a really good segue back to what we were just talking about. Like, I don't want to invest the time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I understand that there are going to be a large swath of folks that are into board games that don't want to spend the investment that some of these games require. And you know what? That's really okay.
It's all good. Yeah.
Play what you dig. Listen to what you dig, right?
Exactly. So, Edward, I am curious, what are some of your, you know, favorite heavy games, I guess, either of all time or recently?
Well, we recently did our top 50. So yeah, total plug. Go check that out
nice.
over on the YouTube channel. But we're actually going to be releasing the herds. So our all the patrons, we put it into whatever. That's coming out soon. Cool. But for me, Aegis Theme has got to get mentioned here. So Aegis Themed, designed by, we're just going to skip that. It was published in
too soon.
Published in 2002 originally. It's now published by Eagle Gryphon. It plays 1 to 8 players, depends on the map. Now, Aegis Theme, in my opinion, is the single greatest system ever invented in the board gaming space. It has, I want to say there's about 315 different maps. Do you need that many? No. Do I want them all? Yes.
Yes.
I have about 160 of the maps. And this is a game, it's a train game in a sense that it's train themed. It's not a train game. It is a pick up and deliver game. You are literally delivering goods from one place to another, the end. But some people would argue it's actually an auction game and everything else is bolted onto that auction. In a nutshell, it is different maps following the basic same core rules, and every map has what we call MacGuffins, or little tweaks, little little things that make it unique. And a little tweak here or there, because it's a relatively simple rule set, can make a significant difference in the gameplay. And Age of Steam can be a knife fight in a phone booth, or it could be super spacious depending on the player count versus the map. And they scale. So some maps can play like 4 to 6. So the same map will play drastically different if there's 4 players on it versus 6 players, depending on what the players enjoy. And I think it is an amazing system that came out in 2002 and is still evolving. The fact that it's almost 25 years old. Yes. That literally
always coming out.
We're streaming a new map tonight. In fact, when we're recording this, Stalinist Russia from Neon Comet Games. We're going to be featuring a new map that literally is available for people to pick up right now that just came out. So I love that this system is still exciting people enough to want to still explore and still design and develop as the game goes on. So yeah, Age of Steam it's my number 1 rated game of all time, but it's not a game that I'm always in the mood to play. And I think that's an important distinction that, look, I love it and I play it probably more than I want to actually play it because I know people are really interested in it. But I'm just in awe of the system that it is, whether you want to call it a John Bohr, Martin Wallace, whatever. We don't need to get into it. It's an amazing system, and it is a Hall of Fame game as far as I'm concerned. So,
awesome. Yeah, and I feel like 18xx shares that similarity where you have a system and then you have all these different versions,
iterations on that.
Yeah. And it's like once you know the system, it's so fun to kind of explore everything. I need to play more Age of Steam. I played it, I think my very first time going to the Gathering, I played it. I forget which map. I loved it. I went and bought the, Eagle Griffin Deluxe version. It sat and shrink forever. Eventually I sold it. Because also a lot of people locally, especially the guys from the Game Brain podcast, they have it and love it. So it's like I can play it. And I could totally see myself like in a year or two, like getting like way down the rabbit hole again with it, because I do love me some systems, like.
And that's the awesome thing about a game like Age of Steam. So to bring it back to what we were talking about as far as rules complexity, there's not a lot. Like it's mechanically pretty simple, even with the different MacGuffins and different changes on the different maps, to where once you understand the core game, you can sit down to a new map, take 5 minutes to understand the new map, and then play. And it's a wonderful experience. It really is good. It's just can be really, really mean.
Yes.
At the higher end of the player counts on maps. Like if a map plays 2 to 4, playing it on the 4 side is going to be a much meaner map than on the lower. So anyway, but that's
fun for some of us.
Yeah, exactly. Again, some of us, I think we're closet masochists. Those of us that like these heavier, like we like pain. We want to. Show me where the bad game hurt you, and that's basically us that enjoy these heavy games, right?
So one of the heavy games that I recently played for the first time, that I've owned for a long time because I was like very excited about it, especially for something to play solo, is Leaving Earth. Have you played Leaving Earth?
I have played it, but I'm gonna let you wax poetic on this one.
So I bought this years ago. It's kind of hard to get. It's designed by Joseph Fatula. Came out in 2015, and it's published by the Luminaris Group, which I think is Joseph's company. Plays with 1 to 5 players, and this is basically like a space race game where you'll build a map with these square cards, and then you have all of these different components, like different types of rockets, different capsules, different types of astronauts, and you're trying to, like, you're basically, if you play it competitively, you're racing to complete objectives. Like, there might be an objective that's like, oh, get a man to Mars and then back to Earth, or hey, like launch this kind of thing, or explore this planet. And everything you're doing, it has this like really kind of realistic like testing mode where you have to, every time you learn like a technology, you have to put like 3 outcome cards on it. Mostly it's 3, sometimes it's different. But when you go to use that like rocket for the first time, you flip one of these cards because you're still learning. You're still like testing this out. So hopefully it's successful. And if it's like successful, you can then pay an amount of money to get rid of that card. Now you're down to 2 outcome cards. Next time you go to like fly that rocket out or whatever you're testing, flip a card. Oh no, it's a minor failure. Bummer. It didn't really launch like you wanted to, but you can pay money to get rid of that card. You're learning more. And then you do it again. Eventually you get rid of those cards, and now you know how to like run this rocket or use this space shuttle.
And it's satisfying, right? To be able to, hey, I look at what I have accomplished. Right?
Yeah. And it's so neat. And I think I primarily bought this game as a solo game, but having played a half game, we had to end early, but with 3 players, I love all of the fact that you can like, hey, I already studied Atlas rockets. Edward, if you give me like $15, I'll let you research off me. And then you can and then you can copy my tech. One of the expansions adds like venture companies. So you can have like, we could be partners with a company and we have shares invested. I don't even know how that works, but I am just like really fascinated with the uniqueness of this game. Also the fact that I see it on the, like when we were playing, I'm like, okay, I see those are the objectives that we're competing for to get points. How the heck do I get all the way out to Uranus and do XYZ? And you have to kind of like plan backwards because certain things take time. If you're going to have astronauts out there in space, you got to have food for them. And there's like a feed your people thing. And it's just like, it's so unique and cool.
Details.
And they don't need to eat. But I'm just like, I love it. I have it like partially set up on my little side table because I want to explore it more and like really understand it. But I think it's really, really cool. So that's like a heavy game I've been wanting to play forever that I finally played, and I'm loving it already.
Nice. So that's Leaving Earth. For me, my next one is a game from 2019, Crystal Palace, designed by Karsten Lauber, published by Spiele, Capstone here in the U.S. Capstone's getting a lot of run on this show today, I noticed.
Oh, yeah. Capstone, Lacerda, Mind Clash, it's like the heavy right? hitters here.
So plays 2 to 5 players. I played it across the entire player count. I like it at 3 to 5 personally. It's a dice drafting game. Well, no, not really dice drafting. It's more of a dice placement game. But here's the hook. Here's the only thing you really need to know about this game is you have X amount of dice. It's going to be, I believe it's between 4 and you can acquire 2 more dice. They're dice as workers. Okay. So it's a worker placement-esque game. But here's the hook. The value of the dice you get to set. So you don't actually roll the dice. You just, if I want a weaker action, I choose it as a 1 worker. If I want a strongest action, I choose it as a 6 worker. Easy enough. I can set it to whatever values I want every single round without limitation. It's glorious. The catch you're wondering is you do have to pay for it. But here's the good news. Money is unlimited in this game. However, you do have loans. And if you can't pay off these loans by the end of the game,
trouble.
It may be a problem. Yeah. So you make the bed that you wish to lie in, and there you go. So it's a worker placement, dice placement game, but certain places have certain value minimums. So hey, this place, you might be a minimum 2 value die, but you can put a 6 there to be able to hate draft, quote unquote, locations. But ultimately, everyone's setting their dice at the beginning of a round to whatever values they want, anywhere between, realistically, with 4 dice, it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 24. And then you go around in turn order, placing your dice, and then activate the things to do things. All that is secondary. You don't need, you want more? Go look at the rule book or watch it, maybe
Right?
a heavy cardboard video, but whatever it might be. But the hook here is the fact that your dice are workers and you set them to whatever value you want. The painful, agonizing decisions of not just what to set them to, but then it becomes a game of kind of chicken, but also brinkmanship in a sense that, okay, I'm the only one with a 6 left. Do I place it early to be able to lock down the action that I know I absolutely need? Or do I use it as a, sword of Damocles, this threat that's hanging over everybody? Like, if you do that, I might be able to preemptively, retroactively supplant your worker, and maybe you wasted that action for no reason. And it's this tug of war of placing the workers because they don't activate until later on in the round. It's a wonderful, wonderful dance with the other players that is a struggle in all the ways that I want a game to be. So Crystal Palace, one of my very, very favorite dice placement games because of that. Choose your own size. So, but you're going to have to pay for it.
I need to revisit Crystal Palace because I think I've only played it once. And when I did, almost like my Barrage Great Zimbabwe, but in a different way, I wanted it to feel more thematic. And I kind of walked away with like, but I don't remember what the other games that I was playing at the time that kind of made it feel that way. But I think you're right. Like, I need to revisit it because I remember like that dice mechanism being super cool.
Big fan. All right, what you got next?
Cool. So I have mentioned this on the podcast probably a lot in the past 2 months, but like Black Rose Wars Rebirth is lately just my jam, and it still is. There's like, I won't go on and drool about it, but like I'm still finding so much joy in that game in terms of, all these different evocations and like different ways to score points and the different schools of magic that all feel differently, like when you play them and when you like combine different schools of magic. And this is one of the games where I'm painting miniatures, but it has like, it's like kind of a hybrid feel. And people who have played Wiz War have said like, it's got like kind of a modern, I've never played Wiz War, but it's got like a modern, like more meaty, complex, like take on that kind of thing. Cause we're mages and we're like slinging spells at each other, but there's like the way the damage works and the, you're fixing these rooms, that's area majority scoring. And then there's also like this Black Rose entity. So you're always playing with these event cards, and the event cards can really change up how the game flows overall. And I'm just like, I just really, really, really dig it. And besides that, like Euro-wise, Age of Innovation is like that, and Gaia Project with Lost Fleet have been my jam.
So this is one of the awesome things, and also one of the just frustrating things about this hobby. I've never heard of Black Rose Wars until today. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, okay, I can get into this. All right, I'm gonna check this out. That's cool.
It's so fun, Edward. And it's definitely one that, like, if you learn it from scratch like I did, like it took like 5 games before we didn't make little mistakes or like,
I
we
totally
only
get
check
that.
the
Sure.
we only check our quest limit during this phase. Like, it doesn't matter. We can have more here or there. But yeah, it's a smaller, well, I don't know if they're smaller now, but like a lesser known publishing company, Italian publishing company, Ludus Nova.
Ludus Magnus Studio, I think. Yeah. I'm
Ludus
looking
Magnus.
at it right now. And this.
So they do Kickstarters,
sure.
they do, and they have, I think, like a niche audience, like whoever got into the original Black Rose Wars, but Rebirth is like a streamlined version. Now they're actually, I think, about to drop a Kickstarter for a new revised version of the original. So I'm stoked for that.
Black Rose Wars Dual Void or something.
No,
whatever.
That's the 2-player. That's a 2-player version.
Oh, gotcha.
But
All right,
there's actually,
I should just shut up. My bad.
But yeah, like a lot of, like, I'm so surprised that more people aren't talking about this game.
Well, I'm gonna check it out.
I'm
gonna dig into it for sure.
Check it out.
Look, see, turning me on to games. Yes. I appreciate that, Candice.
Yeah.
All right,
that's what I'm here for.
The last one that I kind of want to touch on a little bit before we just go into a whole bunch of, hey, let's talk about one last thing, is Stress Botics Odyssey. This game is nuts. Absolutely. It's so off.
It looked nuts.
It is the most over the top game I've ever encountered.
Wow.
I've played High Frontier. I have played some really monster war games, and this is the most out of control game I've ever played. So Stress Botics Odyssey, designed by Fernando Barbanoge, published last year in 2024 from Two Tomatoes. They're a Spanish company, plays 1 to 4 players. I have not played this solo yet, but I've either taught it, run it, or played it 2 to 4 players. Now, Stress Botics is the base game. Stress Botics Odyssey is the quote-unquote expansion. Now, I say quote-unquote because Odyssey is the designer's original intent for the game. That is the full game.
Gotcha.
But they stripped out a bunch of stuff to make it more palatable. And here's the thing. Stress Botics is going to be too much for most people. Stress Botics Odyssey is going to be too much for most everybody out there, except for, crazy, just insane people like me. But this is where the theme of the game actually makes the game interesting and just ludicrously fun. You are a stressed out, neurotic robot on a planet that is supposed to be out there mining. The name of the game is Stress Botics. So everything you do is going to cause you stress. Every stress that you gain is negative points. The entire game is spent in negative pointville. A lot of people struggle with that concept. Like, I hate the idea of being in negative points. The Capitals is another game that struggles with that, but I digress. But in Stress Botics, really at its core, it's a pick up and deliver recipe fulfillment game. That's really what it is.
Gotcha.
But it has a million things piled onto it. But ultimately, the theme drives the actions. So thematically, it makes sense what it is that you're trying to do. You are going around mining on this planet. You also have the Alphabot. The Alphabot is affectionately, we call they, whatever, Mom. So Mom is kind of the master robot there that these other bad robots are coming in and trying to disrupt. They're trying to damage Mom. They're trying to attack you. And so you want to try and maybe protect Mom, the Alphabot.
Of course.
And however, when you actually stop and think about it, the guys here in my group were like, wait a minute. We're actually the bad guys. We're the Decepticons. And these are the Autobots trying to come and stop us from strip mining this planet. Now, it's not that, but thematically,
right.
You can kind of stop and be like, oh, damn, we really are the bad people in this, aren't we? But it's kind of hysterical that you're neurotic and the more stress you take, the more damage you take, the more frenetic your robot becomes. Everything is all about action programming and interacting with the other players, and what they do can maybe thwart your plans, so on and so forth. There's a lot more to it, and the rule book is not good. But it is such a labor of love. It was under design and development for the better part of 8 years. And it is a game I've been following for about that long. I have an original prototype of it in the library that I had almost forgotten about until this finally came out last year. And it's a game that you have to work to love it, but man, it's worth it. It's so much fun. It's so enjoyable, but it is one of the hardest games I've ever played in this hobby, and that's Botics Odyssey.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know I was in contact. I don't remember if it was with someone from Two Tomatoes or the designer. Like, this was like a couple years ago. I mean, it wasn't 8 years ago because I wasn't playing modern board games then, but I remember like being like overwhelmed with this, and I don't know if they like offered to send me a prototype, and I'm like, I'll go wait on that. But I am glad to hear that it like finally came out, and that almost reminds me of Europa Universalis, The Price of Power, like that
just over the top, and
it's like if that's gonna be your group's like game that you're gonna keep playing, like, go for it. There's like so much to enjoy, but like that was a game that has like, I don't know, 50-page rule book that I played with. Like, I played for like 5 or 6 hours, and I still was like, I'm not sure how this works.
This is one of those games. This is absolutely one of those games. But again, I mean, not shameless plugging, but shameless plugging. Like, we did do a stream of it, so there's that for folks.
Yeah,
lower that barrier to entry.
Exactly. You can see how it works. So, the last thing I want to just kind of like talk about a little bit is this concept that I was thinking about months ago, that about games where I feel like the juice is worth the squeeze. Like, there are a lot of heavy games out there that kind of get a bad rep from some people, but I think it's because of the way people are onboarded with it. And like, Feudum is the first one that comes to mind because I have had multiple plays of Feudum that were so smooth because everyone came to the table and they did their homework. And instead of like doing a 1 hour teach and then still like being frazzled, sweating, it was like, we just had to like answer some questions here and there. And I think Feudum is such a cool game, but like, if you don't have a good onboarding experience, it can be rough. And also, speaking of your podcast, I remember like years ago, like listening to your episode where you talked about Feudum, and I was like, this game sounds nuts. and it is a little bit, but like, also I think, again, if like there's certain games that if you teach it to someone, it will take a long time. They will still be confused. Whereas if everybody takes the time to watch a video or read the rule book and just come in with some knowledge before you sit down and play, your experience is going to be way, way better.
Yup. Feudum actually held the record for the longest teach I ever did on the channel. And
I believe it.
It was only eclipsed by Botics Odyssey.
Wow.
So the idea of the juice being worth the squeeze, right? Like, I'm just going to hammer through a bunch of list of games that I think, look, you got to kind of work to love them, but I think they're worth the work if they appeal to you, being the audience out there listening. Because look, there are 7,000-8,000 games that come out in a given year, and nobody, literally, not even Tom Vassell and the Dice Tower Network can handle all the games.
All of them,
Hell,
right?
I can't even handle all the heavy games that come out. Like we just talked about, like there are games that I miss, right? So
shout them out.
All right, here we go. In no particular order, like they're either bad rule books, or they're opaque, or difficult theme, or they're fiddly as all get out, but they're worth it. I promise you they're worth it. Here we go.
Love it.
In no particular order: Botics Odyssey, Age of Steam, Antiquity, PAX Transhumanity, Reef encounter, and a huge shout out to Scott Nicholson, that without Scott Nicholson, A, this hobby is worse off, and B, there is no heavy cardboard without Scott Nicholson. I modeled the way I teach games after Scott, and he's an amazing human being.
And I think I found out about Reef encounter from you.
Who found out about it from Scott. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
All right. Weimar, The Fight for Democracy. Tales of the Northlands, The Sagas of Noggin the Nog. If you're if you're from the UK, it's a children's show. It looks like a kid's game. It is an amazing Euro. I promise you it's worth it. Take the time to find out about it. Tales of the Northlands, The Sagas of Noggin the Nog. Age of Steam, obviously. Mr. President, the single best solo game in existence. I see you, Mage Knight, but Mr. President, the American presidency.
I have it still in shrink. I can't wait to play that one.
It's amazing. Macher, John Company, Dilluvia Project, The Colonists, if you love Uwe Rosenberg, by the way, shout out or Labora, and two last ones. Forex, which is all about commodity.
Oh my gosh, so opaque, exchange. But so neat. Yeah.
It is awesome. And the last one I want to bring up, and this is a bone to pick with BGG, so I thought this is the time to do it. Sekigahara, The Unification of Japan. Now, every game that I just listed has a weight rating of, let's call it 3.65 on up, except for Sekigahara. Sekigahara, it is 2.8. So you're thinking to yourself, wow, that seems pretty light. Well, here's the problem. War games, historical simulations, their weight ratings don't it's not a direct comparison to every other game that's on BGG. Anything that is like 2.5 is basically a 4.0 or higher for Euro players. So war games need their own independent weight rating. They really do.
And to that point, my friend Jake and I kind of have a joke because like almost every GMT game we play, like on the back, there's like a little complexity rating. Scale, yeah. But like they'll always be like around like 3 or 4 or something. We're like, I don't know about that. But yeah, you're right.
Border Reavers, I actually learned to play before we did our stream. I actually learned from your video, Candice, and that's a beer and pretzels game.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be heavier, like more than a midweight Euro, and that is
especially if you're learning it fresh.
Yeah, it's a super light war game that really, again, the correlation between war game scale and every other game scale, apples and giraffes, they do not correlate.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sekigahara Unification of Japan,
great
game. Glorious war game, block war game, and really, really good jumping off point if that is something that you're interested in. So that's my list. What you got?
So I will just name a few myself. I already said Feudum. I think the juice is definitely worth the squeeze. But again, like it's how you onboard people. Learn it before you get to the table. Do your homework. It'll be so much more fun and rewarding to play. Too Many Bones. I feel like that was a beast. And, you know, it is a beast. And they're doing better and better with rulebook stuff. And so is GMT and like a lot of the wargame companies, they're putting more pictures into rulebooks. So work is being done to kind of improve things.
And they're getting video people.
Oh, yes. And videos help. Videos help. Oh, yeah, seriously.
No, I'm serious. Like, because some of these are like, some of these games, it's just easier if you have, like you said, somebody
who knows. Yeah, it will not seem as hard if you sit down and watch videos.
100%. But anyway, continue.
Okay, Spirit Island is another one that is like, you know, once you get it, it's awesome. But like, I had someone who bought a game from me who she was like, oh yeah, like she went to try to like learn it at a convention and it went over her head. I was like, watch some videos and like, you know, to like really wrap your head around it. Mage Knight, you just mentioned.
Oh God. It is an amazing experience, but wow, that's a bit, that's a big game. That is a big game.
The whole coin series, you know, talking about
wonderful.
Again, Yeah,
and not
but
just
like
not just the coin series, but the ICS, which is coin adjacent.
Yes.
Also,
yes, with like Vijayanagara and Just of Robin Hood. Yes. Yes. I love that whole series exists now too.
oh yeah,
War of the Rings, second edition. Again, you were talking about like if somebody is into something, even if they don't play board games regularly, like it is so thematic and like
it so
what a rich
does a great
experience.
job. Yes.
Yeah. And then you're like TI4, Cerebria was the other one that I had in mind when I thought about Feudum, because I'm like, Cerebria is not that bad, but I feel like a lot of people fell off of it because of, again, of the onboarding experience of how you learned it. I learned it from someone who loves it, and it was so fun, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I really enjoy it. And the last two I'll mention, more on the war game side, Here I Stand.
Glorious experience game.
I call that like historical TI4.
Spot on. I think that's really well done.
Like you get the like all the like the politics and so good. But it's a beast to learn. Tell everybody to do some homework.
There's a reason we haven't streamed it yet, because I'm still working my way.
You're waiting till I come to Boston.
Well, yes. All right, done. I'm in. Let's do it. All right.
Okay. All right. Work on that teaching script.
All right, deal.
And then the last one I'll mention, and I'm very excited about it, is a game called Fields of Fire. It's a solo World War II game, card based, really cool system, really, really challenging rules, but they just put out a new version where they went through the rule book, and I think you're supposed to get into it a lot easier, and I'm so excited to revisit it because even when it was challenging, I was like really, really into it and just loving the design.
So now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna add one more. Look, it's
okay.
Hold on. The board game hobby is an amazing hobby, but you want to know what some people's favorite hobby is more than playing board games? Is
what?
Investigating board games, like finding out about new games and going and hunt. I swear to God, that is a hobby in and of itself. That like you hear about a game and then you go on to BGG and you're like, oh, I want to find out more.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else, and I love that. Fields of Fire intimidates the ever living bejeebies out of me. I'm a Marine. The designer's a Marine, but I'm still terrified of this game. Like it is. That it's not a bridge too far. I will get to it. But the one that that made me think of is arguably the greatest solo board game in existence, better than Mr. President, better than Mage Knight. And that's, for historical simulation, D-Day at Omaha Beach. That is my Moby Dick.
I have it. I haven't played
it yet.
It.
I have threatened to learn it so I can stream it, but I am so intimidated that that is supposed to be the most immersive, amazing experience, but I'm terrified of it. But I will tackle it by the end of this year. I'm putting it out there. I will have it out there by the end of this year.
I'm gonna do. Okay, Edward. We're gonna say this right here. I'm
gonna
do the same because I've owned it. No. I'm saying D-Day at Omaha Beach. I've owned it. I've set it up on the table. Started. I want to play it too because it just. Yeah. Okay. That's on our list.
All right.
That's on our New Year's resolution, mid-year
100%.
resolution.
All right. Hey, we have 7 months. We can do this.
We can do it. But yeah, anyway, definitely check out Fields of Fire. I think you will love it, especially now that the new edition with the revised rule book is out there. Yeah, it's like really cool. Cause you like Combat Commander, yeah?
Yeah.
It reminded me of like the card, like the multi-use cards it has, and the board is all card based. Like I love it. Even though I don't fully like have my head wrapped around it.
And see, that's the exciting thing, is the exploration of the space. And that's what tends to be with these heavier games. They have a bigger space to explore.
Yeah.
And I am perfectly content sitting down for one game in a given evening, and that being the meal, that being the game that we play, as opposed to 2 or 3 smaller games, because I don't mind that experience. But if you prefer the smaller, bite-sized chunks of games, in the end, all that matters is getting together with your friends, your family, whoever it is, the people that you care about, and exploring the board game hobby in whatever form that takes for you. Play what you dig and enjoy it.
Yes. Well said, Edward. Well said. Hey, well, I know you and I could talk about games forever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and now I'm like, I have stuff that I need to look up.
I know, me too. I'm excited.
Gonna put D-Day at Omaha Beach on my, I'm gonna tick that up on my play queue.
Same.
And also, I am gonna figure out when I can come to Boston, and we are gonna play Here I Stand.
Let's make it happen. I'm in for this.
That would be epic and amazing. So, anyways, great talking to you as always, Edward. And I hope maybe we'll be able to play con one day together.
Well, you have a standing invitation to come to HeavyCon. Unfortunately, it also coincides Memorial Day weekend
BGG
with
spring.
Other BG. Yeah, I know.
So many conventions Memorial Day weekend, which makes sense.
I know, I get it. But you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's make it a play date to next gathering of friends. Let's get together and play a couple games. Let's do that.
Yes. Huh? Also, can I give a shout out? Derek was telling me about something you guys do at HeavyCon, which I thought was brilliant. He was saying one person, when you learn a game, you then kind of plan that same weekend to teach it. So everybody is involved with learning games. Then you get, someone taught me, now I'm going to pass this on. And I thought that was so cool.
I am fortunate to have an amazing community that is welcoming, it embraces people that want to explore the bigger games that are out there. And yeah, no, they're wonderful people. And like you said, Derek is maybe one of the best. Oh
my gosh.
So
love
good
Derek.
People for sure.
Yeah, totally.
So thank you for having me on here, Candice. I appreciate this. And hopefully y'all out there maybe get turned on to some games that you hadn't been interested in or wanting to explore before. So go out there, explore those games and have some fun.
Yes. Thanks again, Edward.
Take care, y'all.
You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at BoardGameGeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@BoardGameGeek.com. Thanks for listening and happy gaming. Boom. Of course, we went longer, but that's okay.